Welcome back, everybody. This is Far From Finished, and this week I want to discuss the difference between borrowing and stealing. Now, those seem to be those two concepts seem to be used interchangeably as of late. You know, in the last couple of decades at least. And you know, usually it's because somebody gets caught with something, they just say that they were just borrowing it. And, you know, how do you recognize whether or not somebody has stolen it or if they are borrowing it? You know, you can usually tell whether or not they were going to bring it back at any point. You know, case in point, let's just go ahead and say that I stole this from work. Now, all this is a two-part plastic piece that holds the antenna to one of our meters. Now, I can say that I'm borrowing it because in this project I'm making a couple of tools, and this has the intention of being taken back to work. Now, this is kind of a disposable item in the sense that it can break, and it very well can be thrown away in the trash at any point if any work has been done in the area. So we try to keep these on hand to replace or add to as necessary. So, you know, it's kind of like, let's compare this to office supplies at work. You know, who hasn't taken a pen off a desk to use it and just never returned it? Well, nobody. Well, I don't want to say nobody. Hardly anybody will throw you in jail or have you fired for taking the pen. But essentially, it was stolen. But you were borrowing it for the time being. Now, what if I leave this here in my shop and I never return it while making these tools? So while I am borrowing these pieces, let's go ahead and make our tool. Alright, the intent of this project is to make a drill adapter that holds onto this and will twist this just by, you can hold this and twist this with the drill. Now, it's not very far and it's not very hard. It's a little difficult. There's a lot of friction fit, but it's not very difficult to do this by hand. And it's not too time consuming. You can probably get it done in less than a minute. But the lid that this attaches to usually has a nub in it right here that this color will end up sitting up against, so you got to turn this and not this. Now, it'd be great if you just turn this, because then you could just hold this against the lid and just tighten this all the way down. But as soon as it gets down so far, it'll bump that, and then you got to twist this, and then you got to grab it from the inside right here and twist it backwards. It's more of an annoyance, an inconvenience than anything else. So my intent is to put an adapter on here on a drill it down while holding this, and snug it up as quickly as possible. So let's go ahead and get some measurements for this part right here. Okay, now that we've got our measurements, let's go ahead and model this. Alright, so that we've got this one 3D modeled. Let's go ahead and, you know, it can be dangerous whenever you're working with a drill because it goes a whole lot faster than doing it by hand. And whenever you're holding something such as this nut by hand and you're tightening something else with a drill at high speeds, and we also got that knuckle down here that this is going to rest up against after it gets up to, you know, halfway up. It's probably best that we have something to hold this. So I'm going to go ahead and design a wrench that will hold around this at least a couple sides of this going around it. So let's go ahead. I've got my little trace around it. Let's go ahead and get a outside diameter 63 millimeters. And our little nubs. Well, tell you what I'm going to do. Let's go ahead and take a picture of this. And that is going to be my outline for the model. So let's go ahead and upload this picture into Blender. Alright, so here it is a few days later. I've got my pieces 3D printed. There was some lifting on the build plate, and there's a little bit of over extrusion because it lifted up and the nozzle pushed it down and it was squeezing out around that. So this was kind of a tight fit. Now I've had to put that antenna, I had to install that last antenna holder on a lid, so I don't have it anymore. And instead of waiting for the new ones to come in for this video, I'm just gonna go ahead and put this together and finish up. Now I have in the meantime checked the sizes of these. This is actually the second 3D prints of both of these because the first ones were you know, I didn't give myself enough tolerance in my measurements to fit inside those gaps. So, you know, I'm still making those rookie mistakes. But let's go ahead and put this together. Now, this piece right here is the part that is intended to go chucked onto the end of the drill. So in order to do that, we're going to have to put some sort of bolt. Now these are extra pieces from the old 3D printers that that I was planning on making in bulk and selling those, but it didn't work out. They changed the frame design by the time I got all the parts in to do that, and that was not a popular design anymore. So, but let's go ahead and make sure this nut right here fits. It does. Alright, coming through here just fine. Now, it's got that nub coming up right in the middle of that antenna, so hopefully there's enough room in here. Now, whenever I just put this on there without this attachment on here, without this all thread, or it would be a bolt. It fits, and I don't remember if that little nub that stuck up in the middle fit inside this hole right here. If this does interfere, then I'll have to come back and raise it up and put that the nut down deeper, and then this will just end up being thicker. But that's really not a problem for me right now. Now I'm putting a fender washer on here to protect the plastic, because if I tighten the nut directly on the plastic right here, to get it tight enough, chances are it's gonna start cracking the plastic. So I want that that force to be evenly distributed throughout the surface of that plastic. Now just go ahead and snug it down. Now I can hear that plastic cracking as I tighten that. But all we need is snug. You know, just hand tight all the way up to it, maybe a quarter or half a turn further. It's kind of like putting the oil filter on your engine when you're doing an oil change. You don't want to snug it up so tight that you can't get it back off later on. Now, working with wood and plastic and things, you know, it'll bite in too deep and you'll just weaken the product if you tighten it too much. So let's go ahead and put this in the drill. And that's our end result. Now, let's go ahead and put that on the lower speed, high torque. And that seems like it'll be quite nice. So now ideally I probably would have had a hexagon shaped piece right here. That way it just slips in and I've got better surface friction for the chuck. And my wrench right here has a notch for that nub. That way it'll still go down and over the top just far enough. And this holds, this drills, it's going to make things a whole lot faster. Alright, so this project is now finished. I'm far from finished, and I hope you are too.